What's up, guys? Justin Brock here, and my mic is turned up loud. I'm back again with another episode of the Insurance Gurus podcast, and today we have a great guest that I was just out in Vegas with at the Digital Life Insurance Agent Mastermind, and he had a presentation. I had heard of Tony before and seen him online, but had never really got the opportunity to see what it was that they had going on. And I was intrigued. I liked it. And I thought we need to get him on the podcast and talk about it. So thank you for taking the time, Tony.
Justin, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Tony Lani is, he is, comes from this world, but several years ago, I think you were telling your story about just having kind of an experience of getting, blown up on TV, based on your opinion, and then people, using the media to portray some of your ideas poorly, and then it just kind of helped launch you into this thing that you and several other partners are part of. So, I mean, I'm not going to bore everybody with my take on it right away. I want you to kind of tell us that story a little bit, and just kind of like you did in Vegas, so that more people can hear about it.
Absolutely. I'm here in Southern California. Don't hold it against me, but you could say that I'm a Christian conservative, Trump supporting person out here in Southern California. So it's almost like a lone voice. And, I attended a recall Governor Newsom rally. This was actually last year. This was last August. And, he's got to go, and we don't appreciate, his left-leaning causes, and kind of just, slowly ruining the state. And a newspaper, Justin, had interviewed me and said, how do you feel about this? And I said, well, you know what? I said, we can't have him anymore. We've got to recall him. We got to get rid of him. And being in the insurance industry and having my own agency, I noticed that I had some clients kind of reach out to me after reading this in the paper. They interviewed me. It was in the paper. And they reached out to me. Not only that, but also the people on like my Facebook friends, they reached out to me and they didn't really agree with what I had to say, and some of them expressed that they didn't appreciate it. And I thought to myself, interesting. I'm old enough to remember that when people could actually agree to disagree and have different opinions. I have friends of mine who are on the left. They're dear friends of mine, but because they're friends because of their character, not because of their political persuasion. So I did have a few people who left my agency, who actually left as clients, and I was so disgusted by it. Just on a personal level, you could say that that's how America First Insurance started, because I thought, I'm not going to be silent. I have a lot of friends, a lot of business professionals who said, oh, I can't express my opinion. I'm thinking to myself, it's interesting, because if you have beliefs and you're passionate about it, I want to work with like-minded people who have those same beliefs. We have everybody in our agency. We have people who work for us that are not necessarily, conservatives, and they're great people. But if somebody's going to kind of draw the line in the sand and go, oh, I'm sorry, I can't work with you because of your beliefs, that's really how we started. Myself as heading up the group as CEO. We have our partners. We're across the country, and we just launched on the 4th of July of this year. And I can't tell you, Justin, the response has been tremendous, because people said, I just don't want to be with my insurance, group or my insurance company, and I don't believe in their values. And that's how we started America First Insurance.
Well, that's awesome, man. So, I mean, obviously, just from a marketing standpoint, it's and that's kind of the premise. I think that we were talking about it in Vegas. There's niche marketing, there's interest marketing, and geographic marketing and all that. And so, from a marketing standpoint, it's great, but it's also interesting because. And I'll get back into that marketing side, but it's interesting because, there are a lot of people in areas like Southern California that have your belief system or set of values that maybe are surrounded by a lot of people that don't. And I don't experience that. I'm in Mississippi, so overwhelmingly, kind of a Christian conservative culture here, and the people that don't fit into that, they're the ones that don't talk about it. because they're outnumbered,
Sure.
and so, but it's there's a ton of people online that I imagine are looking for a solution where they can make sure that they're not putting their premium dollars that are going to insurance with companies that are supporting heavily causes that they don't agree with. And I think that was something that when you were talking about it, it was interesting because some of the largest corporations do get to the point where they start to operate like small governments, and they think they have to make these political correct statements.
Sure.
And it can be painful to watch because it seems like I'm like, I don't know who they think they're appeasing. Like nobody cares, that you're, but they'll, no, we wouldn't care what their beliefs are until they're out, like they're really rubbing it in your face and it's way away from what your belief system is.
Of course.
And that's what I've seen a lot of them do. And you guys kind of pointed that out in Vegas, and then go on your website, and a lot of the content on the website is about kind of pointing that out. Like you guys are fishing through, trying to find, companies and carriers that are both competitive and have product solutions that meet people's needs, that are trustworthy companies, but also aren't out there taking the money that you're giving them and investing in areas that are opposite of what that customer might want their money to go towards.
100%. It's so true. And when we started, Justin, we had literally, when we're looking at all of these different carriers, we probably came across probably out of a couple of hundred, we had to dismiss about 40 of them through the brokerage we're working with. Probably dismissed 40 of them, and out of those, then we ultimately had to vet 13 because they were not aligning with our values. So we're not, obviously you see the companies like Progressive or Geico or State Farm, and these are companies that have been around for many years, but we don't align with their values. And that's the reason why we don't have them, in our stable of carriers. So we always don't know what's happening behind, closed doors, but it really has to do with what we see in the media and what they talk about.
Why do you think a company that gets that big starts to make these grandiose, and what always seems to me like, left-leaning, like proclamations, like they have to proclaim that, hey, we're with it.
Sure.
I don't understand, but it's always these big companies. You see it in other companies outside of the financial services industry, like Nike and all these companies that do things. And it's like, I have Nike shoes. I like Nike for Nike, right?
Sure.
But
a lot of these companies are owned by. Yeah, a lot of these companies, just going to say briefly, a lot of these companies are owned by parent companies. When you look at a company like BlackRock and all of the companies that all the companies that they own, and all of a sudden everybody just starts to talk about whether it's, inclusion and diversity, and you talk about all this, all these woke companies. Now you can believe in whatever you want, but if somebody's going to start to push their beliefs on me, where these, organizations, is just absolutely ridiculous. I've always liked, for example, away from insurance, but I like the store Target. I think Target has everything to offer. I stopped going there because of some of the things that they were pushing on, with their, woke beliefs in, this was a few months ago, whether it was, love is love, and, pushing all this stuff, whatever your political persuasion is, or, whatever your sexual persuasion is. But when you start to push these things on 5-year-olds and making shirts for 5-year-olds with those, with those slogans on it, or if you're pushing those things, I just said to myself, I don't want to participate, or I don't want to give money to an organization like that. Again, it has nothing to do with your sexual persuasion, or whether you're white or black or Asian or whatever it is. But when they try to divide you, and then and then if you don't want to go along with it, all of a sudden it's, you're the bad guy. I know this is not insurance talk, but this has to do as to why America First Insurance exists. We don't want to participate.
I'm not the guy to be avoiding certain topics.
Good.
I would challenge anybody that listens to this that absolutely disagrees with Tony to reach out to us, and we would have you on the podcast
Please,
as well.
I would listen. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
So again, it has nothing to do with whether. I just can't be clear enough about that. And I know that, I'm sure we're going to have people reach out to us. And we've already had people reach out to us that they don't agree with this and don't agree with that. And that's perfectly fine. You like chocolate, I like vanilla. You like black, I like white. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We can all do
a
this.
post the other day that I didn't think was extremely, I'm pretty open about it. I consider myself right of center.
Mhm.
I'm not I don't consider myself an extremist, but I'm
Right.
But I think there's extremists on both sides that, I want to try to stay away from. But I put up something the other day about Medicare, with the heavy regulatory burden that's coming down. And I'm not saying there aren't agents that are doing bad things, but there's some heavy regulatory burden coming because we have a left controlled, House, Senate,
Right.
and White House. And, I said, if you're in this space and you're making a career out of it, you ought to at minimum want a gridlock between Republicans and Democrats. So you kind of should be pro, a volley of at least one chamber of the government right now, so that we can kind of start to change the tides of what you're seeing. It's not even really about your political persuasion, but, and I caught some flack for that, because people were try to latch on to certain issues like abortion and, I guess marriage and sexual preference. And to me, and of course they would probably say, well, you have the luxury of viewing things this way, but, they'd probably say that, I don't have to deal with those issues. But, I think that they're overplaying a lot of it, even on some of those issues. I think, abortion's going back to state rights. I think at worst, most of the people that are dealing with that issue probably have to hop one state line maybe to get an abortion. I don't think there's like a ton of red tape that's been put in front of them. Even if I don't argue with it on merit, it's like, it's really not, it's not being, they act like people are using coat hangers again. I'm like, no, you're having to hop in your Honda Accord and drive to Tennessee. Like, it is not like Mississippi had a bunch of abortion clinics before the Supreme Court ruled, to overturn Roe v. Wade, and that gets pretty, I'm sure even in this, I'll get some flack about it. But like, from a common sense perspective, like everybody's shouting from a mountaintop, trying to enrage everyone about certain political issues. And it's all about controlling a voting class. We even see it right now saying that, Republicans are trying to end and cut Medicare and Social Security when they have not said that. They have said that they wanted to tie the debt ceiling being raised to having to cut some program. And they didn't even specify. And then Biden goes up and says they're going to cut Medicare and Social Security. They're just trying to scare people into voting and keeping their control. And I don't think it's going to work. And I know that to some people that makes me sound like a Republican. Well, compared to the left, I probably am. So it is what it is. But, I try to take just a common sense approach to it. I try to watch multiple media sources, read articles, come up with a plan. I don't try to fixate too much of my time on it because it can be maddening to be a part of, the political world, because unfortunately there are bad actors on both sides that are just, lifetime politicians. And that's a big problem. But, I don't disagree with you. I think taking a stand and having a company where you say, these are our values. And if you don't want to work with us because of those values, that's okay. You don't have to.
Right.
But we're not going to go and pretend we don't have values, or we're not going to go and manufacture values that we don't have just so that the public eye views us a certain way. And I actually think there's a time coming where being real, even when people don't agree with you, is more appreciated than just being fake and faking some popular opinion.
Well, excellent, very well said. And it's interesting, especially if you're coming from the industry, insurance industry, financial services. Many, many years ago, I came from film production, the entertainment industry. And I've noticed, Justin, that anything that includes or something that constitutes a lot of money at stake, people make a lot of, they're scared to say anything because they think they're going to lose some sort of revenue share. I was interviewed on in Insurance Journal magazine. This was about 2 months ago, and gave the interview, and they were very fair with it. It was really very well done from the from the writer. It wasn't kind of a hit piece. And then they had all these comments, where some of these people, oh, great, aren't you smart, cutting out half of your revenue because, you want to appeal to conservatives. It's like, no, excuse me. If you and I, Justin, wanted to open up a vegan restaurant, we're not going to have all the people who eat meat come after us and say, oh, great, now you're cutting off all your revenue of the people eating. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But all we want to do is that we want to be able to serve people who are vegan. Yeah. And I'm not vegan, but it's like I will fight to the death to make sure that somebody's heard and somebody has their own right. So if somebody wants to come after me and they're like, some sort of extremist on the left, I want to hear what they have to say. Let them come after me. I'm okay with that.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, when you talk about you don't believe in their values, they want to cut you off. It's freedom of speech, unless we don't like it. And then it's no longer that freedom. So you can't, it's not, you can't just select things here, so.
Yeah. Speaking of freedom of speech, Elon Musk was wanting to, I think, propose charging $8 a month for people to maintain their blue check verified status on Twitter.
Yes.
And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said it was comical that a billionaire wanted to chalk up free speech to having to pay $8 a month. So I commented on her thing. I'm sure she'll never see it, but I said,
she's a nutcase. Can I say that? I think that's a technical term.
I think you can say nutcase about Alex.
She's a nutcase.
But I said recently, what does a blue check have to do with freedom of speech?
It has nothing to do with it, and she was speaking at some sort of school and she's sitting up on the stage and people were, I don't know if you saw it, but people were coming after her. They were heckling her. They were really just shouting things about, basically, she's an idiot, and she was mocking them, dancing to their chant. And I said to myself, there are certain people, Justin, I know that in politics that are protected. They're untouchable. It's almost like in the mafia, when you talk about, hey, that's a made guy. Means you can't touch them. So I do understand, without naming names, but I would name, people. There are certain AOC and some of these other people, I won't even name the names because it's not the forum to do it, but people who are literally, it's like they're protected. And when you look at somebody like our current president, in my opinion, it's not, obviously he's not fit to serve and the man needs medical attention. But what happens is that there are people behind him who are trying to push their agenda. And that's the reason why he comes off the way he obviously does. Real quickly, on the other hand, Donald Trump was a very successful businessman and is a successful businessman in New York. And everybody wanted to be around him. Everybody wanted to go to Mar-a-Lago. Everyone wanted to, I'm talking about everybody, even on the left, where they wanted to be invited to the dinners and just be a part of him. When he announced that he was running for president, then all of a sudden there was a consensus, especially in the entertainment industry, where we have to turn on him. Why? Because he has so much power and so much influence. It's kind of like the people who say, oh, we can't talk about Jesus during Christmas. God forbid. Yeah, Jesus during Christmas. Christmas, I believe it has the word Christ in it. So it's like, because they know the impact that it has and they want to control. They don't like people having that much control unless they're controlling you.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, it's something that it's sad that I think probably more people on the right side of the coin have been reluctant to talk about politics because Trump was so demonized that if they did support him, they didn't want him to talk about it. So in the media, it was like nobody supports Trump, and it's except these crazy loonies. And I'm like, I don't think that's true because the numbers don't support it at all. But going back to the America First Insurance, from a marketing side, let's say you don't agree with anything we're saying, and that's totally fine. I will talk to anybody about it. I have many friends that don't agree with me on everything political. That's fine. Actually, how boring! Like everybody agrees with me on everything. Okay, no sense to even have a conversation. But on the marketing side, when somebody tells you that you've alienated half of your potential customer base,
sure,
as if you need 150 million customers,
right? You said it right on the exactly.
It's crazy because if I heard it, I think it was Grant Cardone that said, if you can alienate or if you can make half the world hate you, you can be president. So
Very
it's,
well said.
you don't need that. And it's not that we want, everyone to dislike, but by standing up for something you believe in, and you're going to create some people that like you more than ever. As a typical insurance agency owner, my customers, some of them really love us, but I would say the average customer is just like, okay, yeah, they do a pretty good job. And look, we could do a great job, but it's
Right.
still insurance.
Sure.
But I think what America First Insurance is doing is you're going to have more of those raving customers because they're going to come to you for a purpose. You're going to solve the insurance problem, but also they're going to be like, and I feel like I'm supporting something I believe in, and I'm not getting.
Right.
And so the referral side of it, I think it'd be extremely strong for you guys. Just like the cigar guy that was in Vegas. It's a micro interest. Your guys is I would consider a macro level interest. So it's still a huge market. I mean, I market to Medicare. We can help with health insurance, life insurance, other things, but we market Medicare. Am I alienating most of my customer base because I really only target Medicare in my marketing? Or am I focusing in on what I'm trying, or that message being, beat into their head?
Right.
So I just think that whoever said that probably doesn't own a business, and they've definitely never successfully marketed anything.
No, and I just got an email from someone, we get emails every day, and I got an email that I personally responded to. She said, I'm looking for, auto coverage. And I said, we can help you with that. I went ahead and sent her to the link and the phone number and the whole thing. And then literally within 2 hours later, she sent me an email. She said, thank you so much. I got my auto done. I got my homeowners done. And a lot of people, somebody had interviewed me a month ago, and they said, now I had imagined that, with this freedom and your beliefs comes a price, like the coverage is more money. I said, actually, it's not. One of our own partners reached out. He was with American Family through Costco, and he went through the whole process online. And for his auto insurance, he's now with, for Pete's sakes, I just forgot the name of the company, but Travelers. He now is with Travelers for his auto, and he's saving $250 a year. So it's not a matter of, people are willing, Justin, to pay more for their beliefs and for what, their values. But the nice part about it is because we work with so many great carriers and carriers who are on the same page as we are, we are many times saving them money and getting them stronger coverage.
Yeah. Yeah. Have your cake and eat it too.
Which is wonderful. It's frosting on the cake. That's right. Exactly.
Right. Well, no, that's good. Yeah, you definitely don't have to. Sometimes people think that about agents in general. Right? With an agent, it's going to cost me more money, but typically not the case. And
Sure.
And even when you have to narrow down to certain carriers, you can still pick an array of carriers that aren't out there, donating to whatever cause you don't support. I won't name them. I try not to get too political, but at the same time, I also don't want to minimize, I don't want to not say something because I'm afraid that I might get backlash, because I found that most of the people, I will say this, most of the people in our following in the agent community, I would say a lot of them agree with things that I'll say out there, but a lot of the ones that don't agree with everything we say verbatim are still not, militantly against us for saying it. It's really only a handful. You see like 2 or 3 when you say something that's maybe a little charged to one side or the other, and they'll, 2 or 3 that'll be like out, like when I said that the other day, literally, if you go and look at the post, Tony, I said, I think we'd be better off in a gridlock if we could get, I didn't even say I want the Republicans to control everything. I wasn't saying,
sure, of course.
I was just saying, like, we just don't need a complete, and I was chalking it up to the regulation stuff that's already happening, and we're seeing in the industry. And probably 3 or 4 people just started bringing up abortion and sexual orientation in the post, and I was like, and then it was, one of them said something that really bothered me, because it alluded to like the right side or the Republicans were not for like gay people being a lie. Like it was so dramatic.
Sure.
Like, and I've seen that before. And I got to tell you, I don't think that there's a lot of Republicans that just outright are, anti-gay people. I
Not
think
at
they
all.
might have
We're
beliefs,
not.
tied to their religion and about, homosexuality, but I don't think most of them are even putting it into policy. They might be putting in a policy of like, we're not going to force feed our kids these concepts that they really don't even need to be worried about right
Sure.
now. But I don't think they're really I don't think I remember Trump when he had his store on Facebook years ago. I saw it said he had a Gays for Trump hat on there for sale.
It's fantastic.
And they were still saying like, oh, he's supporting gay genocide or something. I don't know. I think that's just completely manufactured,
It is.
So
It's to hate. It's basically to hate. The obviously, people want division and the bad people. And it's interesting because I have dear friends of mine. I don't care if they're gay. I don't care what their sexual orientation is. I don't care what color they are. I'm old enough to remember that, everybody, if you're working in the workplace, everybody got along because everybody cared about the person with their character. Again, whether you're gay and you're transgender, do whatever you'd like to do. It doesn't mean you can still be my friend. We may not understand, I may not understand your values or your thought process, but I do draw a line with going to Target and their marketing, love is love, and it shows transgenderism and everything for 5-year-olds. These were for 5-year-old kids.
No, I've seen some of that, and I'm
on a personal level, I'm not going to, and I don't want to participate in it. People will then be upset because I don't want to participate in it, but these are my beliefs. I mean,
I have many gay friends that don't support that. Like I
100%
that are gay that are like, we don't want them shoving it down kids' throat. Kids should be worried about playing and their school grades, not what sexual orientation they are. Because honestly, they're not going to know what sexual orientation they are at 5 years old. Yeah. They don't even really understand it. They need to let that play out, and deal with that, down the road. And I'm not saying like, I think that there's a lot of that goes into the, that conversation get really deep. And I don't think it's particularly relevant because it's not up to me and you to be the psychologist or the, or insert some sort of understanding of divinity where we can, say what homosexuality is. It doesn't matter, but it certainly is going to confuse children at 5 years old.
Correct. That is correct. It's not the time to do that. Yeah. And for people to say,
well, honestly, it confuses me and you to talk about it. So I know it's going to confuse 100%.
Yeah. And I won't back down. And if people don't want to, it's funny because people who know me over the years, they know that I truly like people. I truly care about people. And I want to make sure that on a business level, that they're put in the best position as possible. And they know that I've got their back. They know that I'm trying to help them. But if you have the people, the militant people, and say, oh, well, I'm not going to work with you because I don't appreciate you. Fantastic. Listen, I'm sorry we couldn't help you. Have a nice day. And they're upset that they can't affect you. They're upset that they can't control you. And then that's when they really start to come after you, or they start to come after your circle of people to kind of, to disparage your character. And just to say about what a terrible, all of a sudden I've changed. I haven't changed. It's because they're upset that I'm not doing what they want me to do.
Yeah, no, I get it. Well, hey, I'm sure we'll get some interesting comments on this video. So
awesome.
But that's what it's all about. Anybody that has any, curiosity about America First Insurance or Tony, you can go, what's your web address again?
Sure. It's www.americafirstinsurance.org. Again, not .com, but it's americafirstinsurance.org. And you'll be able to go on the website itself and everything from life, auto, home, commercial insurance. We're also going to be coming out with cancer insurance, pet insurance. And we were not able to get involved with the Medicare space this year, but I know that we will be getting involved with that soon and also be, ready for AEP next year.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, hey guys, if you guys want to check it out, americafirstinsurance.org. And, and also if any of the topics we're talking about or something somebody wants to talk about, you can comment on it. You can reach out to us at info@justinbrock.com. we're happy to have anybody on with a differing opinion or the same opinion. We're not a mouthpiece for one side. I'll talk to anybody about this stuff, because I think most of the time, if people can have a cordial conversation, they'll find out they agree on more than they disagree on.
Right.
Most people. There are some wackos on both sides, but most people are in here somewhere and they can agree on 90% of things, really. And they get us divided and arguing over small misunderstandings or smaller topics. And even me saying that, somebody will say, it's not a small topic. Okay, well, let's talk about it. Don't just comment on me and hate on us. So, all right, well, we're going to wrap it up here. And I really appreciate you being on, Tony. You guys go and check out AmericaFirstInsurance.org. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Justin. Take care, everyone.
It's time to grow your agency like a guru. Introducing Go Guru Pro. The Go High Level platform allows for minimizing software-based subscriptions and grants control over several facets of marketing and communication. Automate your workflow, communicate with your leads, book appointments in advance, and house all your clients in one secure location. Visit goguru.pro and schedule your one-on-one demo today.